So if we start off with a cake like this, so put it all together. Oh, it didn't. Looks like we've lost the cherry a little bit. Put that there. So this cake is going to be shared between Fred and Amy. Now forget about the vertical lines. I'm just going to take. In fact, what I could do is I could just, let's see if I just delete that. Yeah, that works. So now it's just a cake, right? Just one cake. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in half. So the cake has been split into two parts, and Fred is going to have one of those parts, and Amy's going to have one of those parts. So in total, we have two parts, and we can see it's one. Fred has one part, and Amy has one part. So the ratio is 1:1. All right. I think what I might do is keep the colon symbol there. So I'll try that again. Make it really big. Maybe not quite that big actually. There we go. So, so at this point we've got Fred. It's 1:1. Okay. Now let's take the cake. Well, let's put it back together again, and we'll divide it in a different way. That's what's happened there. Okay. So divide it into a different way. So this time what we're going to do, we're going to divide into 3 bits. Okay, so I've chopped it into 3 parts. And I'm going to give 2 of those parts to Fred and 1 part to Amy. So in total there are 3 parts, but Fred has 2 parts and Amy has 1 part. So we can see if we add the 2 and the 1, we get the total number of parts. And we can see that Fred's got twice as many as Amy. We can see from the picture, and we can also see from the ratio. All right. So let's undo that again. And now we're going to divide it into 6 parts. Oops. So let's make a cut there, and a cut there, and there, and there. Oh, I want to keep the cherry. And there. Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll just give Amy 1 bit, and Fred is going to have the rest. So we have a total of 6 parts, and Fred has 5 of those, and Amy has 1. So this is what ratios mean, and as you can see in each case, we can relate this to fractions. So the cake has been divided into 6 pieces, so we could say that Fred has 5/6 of the whole cake, and Amy has 1/6 of the cake. So a lot of what we're going to do with ratios is relating it to fractions, because it's very similar. One thing you want to make sure of is to not say that, for example, what fraction of the cake does Amy have? What a lot of people will do is they'll look at the 1, they'll look at the 5, and they'll say 1/5. But it's not, is it? As we can see from the picture, it's 1/6. So you've actually got to work out the total number of parts by adding these 2 together. However, you have to be careful of what the question they're asking you. If they said, what fraction of Fred's amount does Amy have? In other words, how much does Amy's cake compare with Fred's? Then what fraction of it is there? Then that would be 1/5. Because when we look at Amy's cake, you can see it's 1/5 the amount that Fred has. So it really depends on what the question is that they're asking you. But most of the time, they're going to say, what fraction is it of the whole? And another thing they can do, and this is probably what we'll do probably the first thing that we'll do with ratios, is to simplify ratios. So if we keep it in in these kind of parts, what I'm going to do is I'm going to group some of these together, so they'll move around and they won't fall to pieces when I move them. So if we put them we'll not put them completely together, so as we can clearly see that they are in these bits. And so the cake's been chopped into 6 pieces, and Fred can have 2, and Amy can have 4. So we can see they have a total of 6 pieces. Fred has 2 pieces, Amy has 4. So 2 to 4. Well, this is exactly the same as this previous situation when we had 1 to 2. And as you can see from the ratio, both of these numbers can be divided by 2, and so you can rewrite that like that. So if you can divide in a very similar way to fractions, and this is again why it gets confusing with fractions, because people think it's 2 over 4 going to 1 over 2, but it's not. It's actually 2 over 6 going to 1 over 3, because we've got to add up the total to work out the denominator. So this is wrong. But we can, however, still basically look at these two numbers and divide them to find a common factor to simplify it. So looking at the first question here, first 3 questions, they're all just that kind of thing, simplifying the ratio. And we're just looking to see, can these pairs of numbers, do they share a common factor? And they do. All of them, all of these 3 will share a common factor, and so they can be simplified. So I'm just going to pause the video, and we'll see if we can. In fact, I'll just stop the video there and we'll have a go at it.